Welcome to another episode of the Living Large in a Small House podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with my friend and former coworker, Leslie Dempsey. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for having me today.
I'm sure glad that you're here. It's been a long time since we've chatted, so I'm horrible.
Oh,
So,
yeah, we go back and forth, on, off, windows open. I mean, it's been weird weather here. I actually love this kind of day and like yesterday. So, but
yeah, I do too. People think I'm weird, but I like a gloomy, cloudy day for some reason.
Yeah, I remember Dave. Thanks, Dave. Sure. I had printed out some of my answers for, from your outline, and I never know if it's printing upstairs or downstairs. So he just ran it in. But I always remember you telling me that a gloomy kind of day is the best day to take photos.
A gloomy day is a good day for photos, typically. Yeah, because otherwise you get these weird shadows like from the sun. And especially in my house, because of the windows, the sun just beats in. So I have to wait for an overcast day to do interior photographs. So,
well, I don't know why I'm nervous, but.
Okay, don't be nervous. It's like you and I are just pretend we're at lunch, having a glass of wine, and we're just chatting. Okay.
I should have poured one of those.
It's so funny because everybody gets so nervous, and after it's done, they're like, "Oh, that was no big deal."
Yeah.
And I mean, literally, it's just you and I chatting.
Perfect.
Did you get my new outline that I sent you this morning?
I did. Yes, I did, and I printed that out. Yeah.
Okay, so you're okay with? We're just gonna kind of just chat and gloss over that.
Yeah. And I was even thinking, like what I could say. Yeah.
Okay. And it's again, this is very conversational. So I kind of lead the conversation and the questions, but if there's something you want to say, just jump right in, because that's just, just like we're talking.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. And the reason I use notes is because when I do talk, especially to friends, I think of something else and we go down rabbit holes, and I don't
Right. No, it was great. It really got me thinking. So.
Well, good. Okay. I got two mouses here. I need to just have one that's actively working for me. Okay. Because I have my notes up too. So.
Okay.
I'm just going to get started and we will chat from there. Okay. Welcome to another episode of the Living Large in a Small House podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with my friend and former coworker, Leslie Dempsey. Welcome, Leslie.
Thank you, Lynn. Thanks for having me today.
I'm sure glad that you're here. It's been a long time since we've chatted, so I'm equally as anxious as my listeners to catch up with what's going on at the Dempsey house. So first of all, let's share with everybody a little bit about yourself, your family, and where you live.
So I am a transplant from outside of Pittsburgh, PA. I've lived in Chicago since 1998. And I'm sure I'll talk a little bit about that later, how I got here. But I live in the Norwood Park area of Chicago, which is on the far northwest side, a really sweet spot of the city, kind of midway between downtown and the suburbs. So I really feel like we have the best of both worlds here. I live in a 100-year-old colonial house, which I share with my husband and 3 kids and 2 dogs. And we're only the third owners of the house, which is really cool. And we just fell in love with this area. And have been here for almost, 22 years. So.
Yeah, and your house is lovely. It's such a charming little area of the city. And what I know about that area, it doesn't really apply to you, but what I know about that area is it's where a lot of firemen and policemen live, because they have to live in the city of Chicago. But you're literally a walk to downtown Park Ridge, which is like the first suburb.
Correct. And a lot of people ask us, like my kids went to school in Park Ridge, And a lot of people throughout over the years have asked, do you need to live in Chicago? Does your husband work for the city?
Right,
And
right.
that's not the case at all. We are surrounded. I mean, every neighbor is either police, fire, detective, canine. I mean, we feel very, very safe here.
I'm sure you do.
We do. And there's always someone to turn to in the event of an emergency, which we have had many in this house. Yeah, we feel very safe, but no, we don't need to live here. We just truly fell in love with the area. And
Yeah,
another
and
interesting thing about this area, which I didn't know until recently, is that our public high school, William Howard Taft, was the inspiration behind the movie Grease. I did not know that.
I did not know that either. And I'm pretty up on my houses and my movies, that because in Chicago we have a lot.
We sure do.
So let's tell everybody about how you and I met. We met through our work at Scholastic Book Fairs. And you and I geographically are pretty close to each other in the world of Scholastic. Like we, not most people in our positions within the company saw each other very often, but because our paths kind of crossed a lot, you and I had a lot of personal connection and we worked together a lot.
Yes, we did. It was great when we were in a world, even prior to the pandemic, we were in a world of mostly conference calls. It was always such a blessing to actually meet up with one of your teammates.
Yeah, and have a friend. Yeah, and we remain friends. And so I'm thinking it's going on 10 years. I don't know when.
I think in October, it will be 11 years since we've been friends. Yeah.
Yeah. And your kids, when they were young, is when we met, and they were attending an elementary school, private Catholic school in Park Ridge that I primarily worked with. So you and I really had a lot of interactions with that school in particular, too.
Absolutely. Yes.
So let's talk about your girls, because I know that they're your whole world. So let's share with everybody your beautiful babies.
Yes. So I have a 17-year-old who will be a senior in high school, Juliet. And so it's a very exciting time for her. We've done all the college tours. We spent spring break visiting like 5 or 6 different schools. So she's got her top 2 in mind. And it's a really exciting time for her. Bittersweet because it's our 3rd going off to college.
I can't believe she's going out to college. I was still thinking she might possibly still be in like 7th or 8th grade. It's crazy.
So funny. No, I have to say I'm a little happy to have aged out of the elementary and middle school years, and there's just fewer responsibilities in high school, fewer volunteer opportunities. So that's Juliet, senior in high school. I have Ava, who will be a sophomore at Indiana University in Bloomington. She is studying media advertising, and she is in the Kappa Delta sorority, which is a whole new world for me. I was not in a sorority when I was at school, and my oldest was not. So it's exciting. It's kind of cool to go to Mom's Weekend and see what it's all about. I went to my first Darty, so day party, whatever that is. It was fun.
Yeah, I was a sorority mom too. And for me also, it was a totally new experience. I wasn't, nobody in I think my baby brother was in a fraternity, my youngest brother. But other than that, it wasn't part of our world. And so the whole Mom's Weekend and everything was, quite fun. However, after it was like my 8th trip to Iowa by myself for the weekend, from Mom's Weekend, I was like, I'm so glad I'm done with this.
Too funny. It's been fun seeing her happy and meet her people and meet her friends. It's been really cool. And then I have a senior, Sophia, at Xavier University in Cincinnati. Sophia just moved into her first house out of the dorm, so very excited. She has kind of fluctuated with majors. She started Xavier with the intention of studying the classics, Greek, Latin, and philosophy, but they actually, that program kind of dissolved because there weren't enough people interested. So now she's actually studying theology and not quite sure what she's going to do with that, but she's amazing. She's had a couple of internships under her belt. She travels. She definitely caught the travel bug from me. She travels every summer, Greece, Italy. This summer she's off to Alaska. She goes to Canada kayaking. So we hardly ever see her. So it's always a treat when she's either home or when I visit her in Cincinnati.
Well, and coincidentally, Cincinnati was where our office was when we
Correct.
worked for Scholastic. So you and I spent a lot of time in Cincinnati.
We did. Every time I drive to Cincinnati, I remember our first drive together. It was with Becky, and we had stopped at, what was the farm? Fairland.
The farm restaurant, yeah.
Yes. And I remember thinking, oh, this is going to be such a long drive to Cincinnati. But now I could probably do it with my eyes closed, but
Right,
yeah,
right.
it's kind of, and I love Cincinnati. It reminds me so much of Pittsburgh, which is, near where I grew up.
Mhm.
And I visit every chance I get. I have my favorite hotels there, my favorite restaurants. I'm so happy Sophia's there so that I can visit more
Yeah.
often.
Do you remember when I I veered off on our way home, probably 3 hours out of our way to go to the Pottery Barn outlet?
I sure
You
do.
ended up spending 3 times as much money as any of us.
I still use the dinnerware and still have some of the wall art hanging. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, very fun, very fun. I didn't even remember it till just now when you were talking about driving to Cincinnati.
Too
So I
funny.
have a question about your girls' names, because they're such, to me, like romantic names. Were they inspired by anything, or were they just names that you loved?
Mostly the middle names came from my grandmother's side. Sophia was what David and I could agree on. Her middle name is Josephine. That comes from my grandmother. Ava Margaret is our second one. Margaret was also my grandmother. And I really loved the name Ruby for the third. And we really kind of, we were kind of trying for that boy. Actually, I take that back. We were not trying. Juliet was a surprise.
But as long as she was coming, it would be nice if it was a boy, right?
Correct. And Dave absolutely loved the name Ellen. And I said, we're not giving her a first name of Ellen. So, but all throughout the years, the last two kids, I also loved the name Juliet. And he said she's going to get teased in school because of Romeo and Juliet. But finally, that's just what we came to, Juliet Ellen. He got his middle name, and she's never been teased because of it. So
No, I can't imagine. I think your girls' names are just lovely, just like them. Her daughters are beauties. And not only that, they're crazy talented. I don't know about Sophia so much. Maybe I just wasn't aware, but Ava and Juliet have the voices of angels. And do they get that from you? Are you a singer?
I can definitely sing. I've never done so in a organized way. I've never participated in the church choir or anything like that. Just one of those, shower singers, bathroom singers, sing in the car. But they were raised on music. We always have my music playing in the house. There is a 10-year age difference between my husband and I. So they were raised on things like, Coldplay and, just some alternative type stuff, some electronic music, but always had music playing. But I don't know. I agree. They have voices of angels, and they love singing at the church choir. They're pretty much just a duo when they sing together. They'll go in for special occasions, special masses like graduation or communion. But one of the really cool things that they did during the pandemic, when churches were closed, they showed up every week to be part of the live stream. They were 2 of 4 people in the church every Sunday being recorded so that people could tune in to the live stream masses and have some sort of normalcy with music and feel like they were there. So that was a really neat experience for them.
That's very cool. And Ava sings in like a cappella group, doesn't she?
It's Juliet, actually the youngest, who
Okay.
sings with a cappella at Loyola Academy. So that brings her the greatest joy. It is so much fun, those shows, those competitions, very much like Pitch Perfect. We just love it. Some of the songs.
It is. And sometimes they sing the same music. So it
Oh,
really
they
makes
do.
you feel like you're right in the whole
Yes.
thing of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Just love it. Anyway, so you decided to leave Scholastic. I don't remember when, I don't remember the circumstances. However, I was never so jealous in my life. And you just were like, yeah, I'm going to do something that's going to make me happy. And I just want to be content. And I want to spend more time with my girls. And so you made that decision to leave. And let's chat about that a little bit.
Okay.
Again, I was so jealous. People have this idea when we tell them we worked for Scholastic Book Fairs, like, oh, the best job in the whole world. But the reality is it's corporate America. And I don't care whether you're selling books or you're selling widgets. It's all about the numbers. And we, for being these happy-go-lucky little Clifford people, we were put under a lot of pressure at times.
Yes.
And we're pressuring volunteers.
Right.
And having been on both ends, because you were a crazy volunteer at your school and I was a crazy volunteer at my kids' school, I know that I don't have to do anything if I don't want to. And
Right.
so it was hard to be in both shoes.
Absolutely. And I loved the mission. I still love the mission of Scholastic Book Fairs. Raising lifelong readers, giving kids equal access to reading materials, especially in the territory that I worked in with a lot of Chicago public schools.
Right.
Some of my best and brightest days were seeing the kids light up at the book fair and, just being able to know that there was something in their price range that their parents could afford, or that, their librarian would purchase for them. I mean, some of the such gratifying work. But yes, absolutely. It all came down to sales and numbers and meeting those numbers and expectations, and trying to add another book fair into a school that already had one or two or sometimes three fairs, when space was at a premium and everyone wanted the gym for every other event that the school needed to have. And it just didn't align with what I could truly handle in my busy life of having three kids. And it was, I truthfully was never able to find the balance. It was a job where it was a position where you could realistically have your email open all day, all week, and feel compelled to answer a question that may have come in the evening or over the weekend. And at that point in my life, I was not very good at setting healthy boundaries. And that was part of it. I just really needed to step away and step into something that was just as fulfilling, but that I didn't take home with me, because I didn't deserve that. My family didn't deserve that. And it was wearing on me.
Yeah, and we worked from home long before it was a thing. And like you said, you and I had each other, but that wasn't the case for a lot of people. And even that wasn't enough to sustain us, I don't think, in the big scheme of things.
Right.
So you left, and then you've done some great things after that. You went on to substitute teach at your kids' elementary school, and
Yep.
basically enjoy being a mom more and being home.
Absolutely. And I recently had someone ask me, in one of our local networking groups. This woman and I had met for coffee, and she asked me if I have a professional identity. And I had no problem saying, first and foremost, I am still a mother. And that is my numbers 1, 2, 3 they are my job. They're my priority. They give me the greatest joy. And doing things for them, that is my biggest love language. That is the most fulfilling thing still at ages 19, 17, 21. It's what I love the most. But yes, I stepped away from Scholastic. I substitute taught at the school where Juliet was, that we used to do the book fairs at in Park Ridge. And I loved that. I loved the flexibility of it. I loved being able to say, yes, I can come, or no, I can't. I also, part of what led me to step away from Scholastic is that I had found a beautiful family in Park Ridge who was looking for part-time after-school coverage for their 2 little girls. And I know what it's like not to have someone to be able to pick up your kids or help with homework, because I do live 500 miles from my parents. We didn't have any, sort of backup coverage like that. So their request for help just really spoke to me, because I felt like I was qualified. I felt like it would be so fulfilling. And I was with them for like 3 or 4 years. And we still keep in touch. We're still friends. The girls still come over and visit the dogs and things like that. But it brought me so much more joy than Scholastic did at that point. And that family was truly the reason I stepped away.
And probably paid you more money.
Correct. Yes. And
Yeah,
when I said,
we did not set good boundaries when we were there, because we worked from home. It was hard to turn it off. Other people had no problems interrupting us on Saturdays and Sundays with crazy demands.
right. I mean, if a
So,
cash register was broken on a Saturday morning.
yeah.
And
you also were nicer than me, because I would probably tell them, I wouldn't even answer the phone to start with. But yeah, I was not as nice as you were. But yeah, I still would answer the email and say, oh, that's so unfortunate. There's a little toggle in the back that you can open up the drawer, just use it as a cash drawer.
So funny.
Anyway, so you have talked about how you love to travel, and I have told you this more than once. When I grow up, I want to be Leslie Dempsey, because not only do you love to travel, and this was something I was thinking about earlier too, you do things for yourself that are pretty amazing. Like when the first time you said, I don't know if I saw it on social media or if you told me, you went to some kind of a huge concert all by yourself. And I would never do that. Like that's so out of my comfort zone. But you absolutely love music, and you think nothing of going to a concert, going out to dinner by yourself or with friends, and traveling. And you do it right. And it's so awesome. So you're always going somewhere, and you just recently came back from a trip. Can you talk about that first, and then we'll talk about all the other places then?
So it had been about 10 years since we traveled as a family. It was my 40th birthday, actually, since all 5 of us.
It was an event. Yeah. Happy birthday.
Yes. Well, this whole next 13 months is going to be an event. So get ready.
And I'm 40.
And I am not a birthday person with myself. I have a midwinter birthday, awful time of year, right after the new year to be born. So I don't really do a ton for my birthday. I love celebrating my kids, but I thought, why not? I'm going to be 50, and why not? I mean, I'm just embracing it. Not just the number, but the ability to just pick up and go. And, especially with Juliet going off to college next year, just kind of opens up a whole new world, a new chapter. But yes, we all went to Puerto Vallarta. We just got back last Sunday, And each girl was invited to bring a friend. We had found this villa up in the mountains just outside of Puerto Vallarta that could sleep 8. And so every girl got to invite a friend, and we had 2 friends for the majority of the week. And then towards the end of the week, Sophia's friend came in, and it was wonderful. I had been there enough with friends, also with my daughters separately, to just truly plan what I felt like was the perfect itinerary. So dinner, I had the dinners every night. Everything's pretty much on open table. So that made it really easy to make the reservations. And it was outstanding. I did lose my phone. I don't know if you saw it, but my phone went overboard.
That was the first one I saw, that you lost your phone. And I thought, oh my gosh, to be on vacation without your phone. But you had a lot of people around you with a phone. So
Correct. But no one else had really
all your stuff,
all my contacts, the itinerary, the reservations, that sort of stuff. So, but we made it work.
You did make it work. It looked like at one point you had someone in the house that was cooking for you too.
Yes. So actually, I found this villa through Airbnb, and there's a housekeeper that comes in every day. And they're usually there for 6 to 8 hours, and they cook breakfast and, just change the sheets every few days or whatever, and sweep up. And what I wasn't expecting this year was that they also cooked lunch. So we ran out of groceries. We had ordered groceries and pre-stocked the fridge prior to our arrival. Mm-hmm. And that only lasted 2 days because they were cooking.
So many people. Yeah.
We had so many people, and they were cooking lunch, but we just never felt so good and healthy about what we were eating. Everything was fresh. The guacamole, the pico de gallo, the fresh juice. It was just amazing. I mean, one morning I woke up for coffee, and they were making the tortillas, like just right in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
It was incredible.
The platter with fruit was like, just amazing, just beautiful. Yes. So share with us some of the other places you travel, because I know you love to go where it's warm. That's kind of your love language, but you've been all over the place.
Yeah. And it hasn't always been my love language. Actually, when I was thinking about meeting up with you today, Dave and I honeymooned in Alaska because I was not a beach person. I did not own a swimsuit. So to even think about going to a beach or a tropical vacation was just out of the question. But I think my love of travel started when I was in college. I had studied abroad twice, and both in London. And it's funny you mentioned about going to concerts alone. I think that also started during my study abroad experience. For the first time I landed in London, it was like 1994. I had opened up a Time Out magazine, and I saw that Sting was going to be at Royal Albert Hall the next day. And I had no one to go with me. And I was with a group of other people from Pitt, but I looked on the map somehow. This was before I had a phone, and Royal Albert Hall was just, 5 blocks away. I walked, I got a scalp ticket, and probably one of the best experiences of my life. Great singer, incredible venue. And it was so empowering, so liberating that I was in a foreign country and just did something so courageous by myself. But so my parents definitely get all the credit for sending me abroad twice. But then when I started working, when I came to Chicago, I had a career that had me traveling pretty much 4 or 5 days a week, all over the US and all over the world. So it was kind of cool to do it on someone else's dime. And everywhere from, Washington, D.C. with the Library of Congress to, the state of Washington, everything in between. I was in Australia for 2 weeks, Finland, Sweden. And then just after, the kids were born, and we didn't do much for like 12 years or so. I think our first family vacation was like to the Smokies. And then I branched out a little bit, and, we've gone to Florida, Disney, but I love Mexico. I love Puerto Vallarta. I have some other things coming up this summer and next year that I'm excited about. So
So you also do some kind of traditional trips that with your kids. You usually take each one on a graduation trip, right? When they graduate from, is it 8th grade or high school?
You know what? It's all blurring together because it seems like every year they've been getting a
That's
trip.
true. You take someone on a trip.
I should have thought about the precedent that I was setting. Because I remember when I took Sophia to Seattle for her 8th grade trip, I said, it has to be in the US. Well, that very quickly went out the window when it was Ava's turn and we went to Mexico. So.
Mm-hmm. And then another thing that I think, it's not a long-standing thing, but you've been doing it of late, is there's a cool place in Wisconsin that you turned me on to. And they have all different kinds of every place you could stay on their property. I guess you it's not an Airbnb. What would you call that? It's not an inn, it's
oh gosh, I don't know what you would call it.
but they
maybe
have
just a small resort.
It's a resort, but they probably have maybe 7 or 8 homes that are all different and all unique and all cool. And it's very near where Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin is, which I'm a huge Frank Lloyd Wright nut. So it was just really intriguing to me. And I didn't know that about that space until we got there. And you take your kids to this place because they've converted their barn into a family vacation spot. And it's perfect for your girls and their friends. And you just go away for a long weekend or a weekend just to get away.
Yeah, I forgot about that. And I remember being very envious that you were able to visit before I was able to visit.
Well, and I thought you had been there before because you said something about, oh, I'm so excited. The dates to book this place are open, and they're open one day a year.
Right.
Or something crazy like that. And I got the only place that was available and it was in the winter time. And we were a little bummed, but not so much, because Keith and I have traveled in the wintertime and we always find something fun to do. And we're kind of a not touristy type of people. So being in Wisconsin in the wintertime where you can go to these little bars off the beaten path and just kind of find your own thing was fun for us. We had a really good time there. So thank you.
Yeah, it used to be called Candlewood Cabins.
That's right.
Yes, the owners live on property in their own private house, but they have, 7 or 8 other houses. There's one built around a silo. I don't know if you stayed in the glass house. There's one that has an outdoor outhouse. But yes, most recently they converted the barn into, I think it sleeps 12. So that's perfect for my girls and their friends. But they've recently changed their name and I asked them about it. It's called Anaway Place. And I asked them, Anaway, is that a family name? And they said, no, it's Anaway Place. Like you're going to Anaway Place. Yeah. And I suspect it's because Candlewood Cabins was very similar to the Candlewood Suites hotel brand. So maybe there was some branding conflict there.
Interesting. I will put that information in the show notes if anybody wants to explore it. It's a very, very cool place.
Yes, they book out like a year or 2 in advance. And typically it's a 2-night minimum, which is outside of my price range. But if you look on their calendar and if you see a single night, that's how I've always visited, because then you can call and say, hey, can we just come in for this one night?
So what are some of your favorite places that you've ever traveled to?
Oh, goodness. It's funny you asked that. I'm sitting in our spare bedroom that I have recently had redecorated to resemble the Don Cesar Hotel in St. Pete's Beach. As I said earlier, our first family vacation was to the Smokies. Then I branched out a little bit and took my girls, just the girls and I, to Saugatuck in Michigan. And I thought, okay, I can do this. I can handle this. And then we went to St. Pete's Beach in Florida. and just fell in love with the Don. I'm kind of a bucket list hotel person. I do have a list of hotels that are on my bucket list, and the Don was one of them. It still remains very near and dear to our heart, but what makes travel so special to us is really the people that we meet. It's more than the place, but it's the people. So we loved the Don for a long time in the St. Pete's Beach area. But once some of our favorite staff started moving on, it honestly became a little less attractive. And now the Don it's all over TikTok. It's just exploded. And that's just kind of not our vibe right now.
You started it all.
Well, I've been going to New Orleans a couple times within the last year, and I plans to visit this September with my daughter for her birthday. So such a fun city. Definitely have been there enough times to know where I want to take her, the restaurants, and I'll plan a nice itinerary for her. And Puerto Vallarta. I mean, again, it's the people. We meet someone new every time that the people are just so happy that you're there, and they want to. I don't know if you read recently on my post about how our driver, who we had kind of secured for the week because he had a huge van that could hold all 7 or 8 of us. He took me to a bakery. He walked into the bakery with me, helped me order a strawberry shortcake for Father's Day. There was nothing in the case. He asked them to bring something fresh from the back. I mean, they're just so personable, and that's what makes a trip meaningful to us. I mean, we talk about those housekeepers and their food. We'll talk about them for the next 25 years. Right. And that's what helps us go back to a place.
Yeah. Yeah. I was only in Puerto Vallarta once, and it was a girls' trip. And the hotel we stayed at, that we were booked at, ended up being just horrible. Like it was,
no.
Like, no, we're not staying here. So my friend and I decided to walk down the beach and see what else we could find. And we ran into the owner of this other hotel, and we told him how horrific the conditions were where we were. And he just like welcomed us with open arms. They went and got our luggage for us. We literally never went back. Like we didn't walk back to the old place. And our other friends stayed there because they were like, no, we've already paid. But the place we were at originally wasn't all inclusive, and this place was. And so we ended up saving money. Like it was so much nicer. And same thing, we had a young man who was like our bellboy. He just watched us the whole week. He took us shopping to make sure we were safe because we wanted to go into town. When we went to bars at night, he would just sit there and just keep his eye.
Sure. That's awesome.
We ran into these 2 men who were they were there for vacation, and then they were going on a cruise afterwards. And we just had so much fun with them. Kept in contact with them for years and years and years. So yeah,
very cool.
Vacations it is really about the people and
Absolutely.
The people you're with too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what do you have planned for the rest of this year? You've already hinted that some things are coming up. It's the year of 50.
Yes. So I'm actually stepping quite outside my comfort zone. And in August, I'm headed to Guatemala with the Girls Love Travel group. I don't know if you know this Facebook group. It's called Girls Love Travel. And there's about 1.5 million people in the group. But it's just a lot of women sharing travel tips, check this out when you're in Croatia, or, do the flying dress shoot when you're in Greece or whatever. Or, I'm traveling with 2 young children. What are my options? Just a lot of tips. But they also organize trips. And so they have a couple of options in Guatemala this fall. And I chose to do a 3 or 4 day long weekend trip. I think there's probably only 6 of us going. I don't know anyone. I did opt for a single room. We could share rooms, but I thought, okay, with my just stepping a little bit, trying to get my feet wet. Right. getting a single room. So I'm excited about that. First weekend of August, headed to Guatemala. Part of the year of 50. I'm not a big Vegas person, but I'm a huge Adele fan. And I would very much like that to happen. It's a bit pricey, so I think I'll probably get 2 tickets to Adele and invite a friend who could maybe pay for their portion of the ticket. And if not, Juliet will be my ride or die.
Right.
And then I'd love to get to Big Sur. I've never been to that area of California. I'm learning about this. Yeah, and definitely a couple of resorts that are on my bucket list. The views just look spectacular. And there's this little village called, I think it's Caramel by the Sea.
Yeah.
And I hear it's charming around Christmas. So
Big Little Lies. That's where that was.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm sure I haven't told you this. Kenny's getting married, my son.
Oh,
Kenny.
wow. No, I did not know that.
Yeah. And
Congratulations.
they're getting married in April in LA at a really cool little place right outside of LA. So we'll be in California for sometime after in April. And Annie is having a baby.
Oh my word. That is,
and that baby
incredible.
is due the very first of the year. January 4th is her due date. So we'll have a 4-month-old with us out in California too.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of big things going on over here.
A lot of big things. That January 4th birthday, though, I'm telling you, it's not fun.
No, Emma is the 26th or 24th, and even that one is the tough one. And I felt like until she really knew, we never even had a birthday party.
Sure. My mom always tried to make it so special, but growing up in Pennsylvania, the roads were, not plowed, and we lived on a hill, and
it's a tough one. My niece, Danica, her baby was due January 4th this past year, and she ended up having her on Christmas Eve. So anything could happen.
Yes, exactly. Anyway.
So speaking of family, you lived in Ohio, and your mom and dad are still alive, and you still make time to go visit with your family in Ohio. Can you share a little bit about that?
They're actually, they're in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, that's right.
Yeah,
I should know that because we were both in Pennsylvania at the same time when.
Oh, I remember that. Doesn't your brother live in Pittsburgh?
Not anymore, but he did. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So they're kind of wedged between. They're in Southwest Pennsylvania, in between Pittsburgh and Morgantown, West Virginia. Pretty much beautiful place to grow up. My parents, had the time and resources and energy and health to come out to Chicago as much as they could when the kids were growing up, definitely for special events. But now, as my kids become more self-sufficient and tour out of the house, I have the time and energy and resources now to go there and help with, various things. My sister is still there. She lives about 10 minutes from my parents, and she's a teacher. But with, appointments building up, and she needs, for my parents, her having to take time off to take them. They both are still reasonably healthy and can drive, but whenever we can step in and help, we do. So I am definitely making more of an effort to go out when I can, just to kind of take some of the pressure off of her and taking her days off from school.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. And you also do something for yourself on your birthday that, again, I wish I was you, because, and this is such an easy thing. We could all do it. As women, we should all do this. Your birthday, you do something for yourself.
I do. And it's so local. And I love sharing this with anyone I can, because it's a little hidden gem, just, right outside of our area. I go to the Herrington Inn and Spa. It is in Geneva, Illinois, which some people confuse with Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, but it's Geneva, Illinois. And right after the new year, and I typically go, January 2nd and stay over and wake up there on my birthday. I take advantage of their spa services. It used to be an old dairy farm, so a lot of their spa services include, milk and honey treatments and things like that. So it's, a fireplace in every room, milk and cookies at night, delivered to your room. I mean, it's if you're going to have a midwinter birthday, that's the place. to celebrate.
That's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's only an hour away, so.
You also love to entertain, and
I
you,
do.
like me, are a sucker for a good charcuterie board.
Well, mine pale in comparison to yours. I would
Oh,
be
I didn't know about that.
horrified if
I
you
didn't know
saw
about
mine.
that. I take some notes from yours for sure. I just share them with the world more broadly, and I should give you more credit. So let's talk about some of your favorite things to do with entertaining. And up until now, that used to sort of be primarily around your kids. Like you
Yes.
always did the Halloween parties and the football game parties and all that kind of stuff. What does it look like now for you?
Wow, it's a little more random now. Like they'll give me 30 minutes notice that their friends are coming over. So I actually do try to have some charcuterie board staples in my fridge and pantry at all times. And I have enough practice that I can just whip it up. They're all different anyways, no board is the same. So I do try to be prepared for that. I love it when they have their friends over. All their friends are obsessed with our dogs, even though sometimes their behavior is not the best, but it's just a big circus. But I welcome it. Post-pandemic, I haven't done much. I used to do a summer girls cocktail party.
Right.
My husband and kids will go up to the North Woods in a couple weeks, and they'll go for like 10 days. So that was always when I would have a girls get together, but I really haven't done it post-pandemic. And
then Thanksgiving, you do something very, very special at Thanksgiving, which I love. Can you share that?
Yes, we love our Thanksgiving tradition. Since Thanksgiving of 2019, we have been adopting sailors from the Great Lakes Naval Base, just north of the Chicago area. And it's very cool, and it's an exhausting day, but I would highly, highly recommend it if anyone is looking for a way to give back during the holiday season. I'm usually at Great Lakes by 7:30 or 8 a.m. That's when they ask you to be there. The first year we adopted 2 sailors, and who we still keep in contact with one of them, Seth. He's super charming. He 2-stepped in my kitchen with my girls, which was really cool. Helped us cook, our evening meal. The second year we adopted 4. It's kind of random. You can request how many you have room to have. They also give you an option if you're serving kosher or vegan or a traditional ethnic type of Thanksgiving. They'll pair you up with those recruits. And you're kind of guaranteed to get some outgoing kids because they need to sign up for it as well. So you wouldn't necessarily get someone who's super shy because they sign up for the program as well. Right. But you need to pick them up by like 8 a.m. And we typically have them all day until I take them back at like 10 p.m. and I'm crying because we just formed such a special bond with them. So I've kind of gotten it down to a routine now. I usually make a casserole the night before that I can just pop in the oven because they will have not eaten. They don't eat breakfast in the morning, so they're starving. For lunch, we usually go to our country club and enjoy the buffet there. And then for dinner, I feed them again, and we have more of a traditional Thanksgiving meal here, or sometimes not. Sometimes I'll just get some take and bake type items from Costco. They're just happy to eat. They're just happy to be off base and eat and get some leftovers sent home with them. So yeah, it's been great. Typically that information comes out in the beginning of November. You apply for the lottery, but they always have enough to go around. Knock on wood, we've never not gotten someone.
Some gentlemen, yeah. And you always share it on Facebook too, and they always look like they're having a great time, and you're having a great time, and your girls seem to enjoy that too. And it's cool that you're teaching that kind of thing to your kids, that how important it is to give back to others, and that not everybody's as lucky as we are and able to be with family during the holidays. So, you've always been somebody who's always given back. as long as I've known you. You're always involved in your kids' schools, your church. And you have been my resource for sometimes where to donate things, or sometimes you'll just put something on social media and I'm like, where does she come up with this stuff? I mean, you find the greatest resources for donating your time, donating your things, causes that need help, and you share those with people. And I love that. Can you share some of your favorites of those things?
Sure. Well, when I have to say, I learn about all of these through other friends. So I wouldn't necessarily know of most of them without, social media and being connected with others. One of my favorite places to donate to is called Digs with Dignity, very similar to Habitat for Humanity. When I do my January, February organizing, any type of household item, decor, sheets, towels, furniture, lamps, those sorts of things, I will take to the Digs with Dignity warehouse, which is kind of down by where the Sox play on the south side. So it's a bit of a drive.
That is
but yes, they provide housing for people who are transitioning out of homelessness. So it's a really cool organization to support. So
you love your dogs. And do you have a favorite? Because I personally am looking for a place. I have old towels and old bedspreads that I wouldn't even, that aren't something good enough to give to a family, but I know that ant shelters like that kind of thing for animals.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite?
We do. We adopted our oldest dog, Soleil, from Wright Rescue. They're in Morton Grove. Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, Wright Way. Their rescue used to be closer to where we live in Norwood Park, but several years ago, I don't know how many years ago, there was a bus who crashed into their building and no animals were injured, but a lot were scattered. I think they recovered all of the animals. It was just a very unfortunate accident, but after that, they found a new location in Morton Grove. So Right Way Rescue, just because it's near and dear to our heart, because that's where Soleil came from.
And I don't have any connection with any rescue, so I'm happy to make the trip to give it to something that's important to somebody who's important to me.
And we can have lunch.
Yeah, we could. We definitely could.
Yes.
Speaking of organizing and donating things, I do an organizing challenge every January and again in September. I think I do it in September. Yeah. Like back to school, ready to clean things up once the kids are. And you are my number one best organizer. The first year I did it, you took it to heart and you did so well. Was it a good experience for you? How did you feel about it after you were done?
It was a great experience. So that would have been 2021. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it was either 2020 or 2021 because everybody was stuck at home.
Right. So yes, my first time participating in yours was 2021. I invested way more than 30 minutes a day. So it was extremely fulfilling, but I love the outline that you provide. I love the tips. I never would have thought about having 3 buckets, one to donate, one to sell. What's your other one? Trash.
One to throw, one to donate, and one to one that you're saving, the stuff that you're saving.
Okay. Yes. So what was interesting, and part of the reason I spent more than 30 minutes a day was because my drawers were never lined. I never had the clear containers that always look so beautiful in your drawers. So a lot of that time was spent shopping for, affordable items. But I have to say, once it's done, and a couple of things about this. Once the kitchen was done, that was actually my easiest place to organize this year. I know, just because you do it once doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't need to be done again. But the kitchen, I'm finding, is very easy to keep organized. Because, you go through your pantry every so often, donate things that are coming up for expiration, but I just find that the kitchen's very easy to keep organized. But once the liners were in and the organizers, and I love it. The concept of removing things from packaging and putting them into glass jars, like your pasta and your flour. And I love the way your pantry looks with your glass mason jars and your beautiful labels. Oh, I just couldn't wait to shop for all of that.
Well, and I find it so fulfilling to walk into my pantry and or open my drawers and see everything organized that it helps me want to keep it that way.
Correct.
And I get very unorganized too. We all do. There's times where I open my pantry door and I'm like, oh yeah. But it's real easy for me to get it. It only takes me about a half hour to get it back to where it needs to be, because I have a system. I have the containers. I have everything has a spot, a place. And I think that's the important thing, is if you need a home for everything in your house. And if you don't have a home, then you kind of need to evaluate, well, what's the purpose of this thing? If it's not worth me finding a home for it, do I really need it? Do I really love it?
Correct.
Maybe I need to get rid of it. And I used to have a hard time with getting rid of things, and I don't anymore. I'm a purger almost to a fault, because I found sometimes that 2 weeks later I'll be, shoot, I should have never gotten rid of that. I really need it. But I also live in a very tiny house and space is a premium. And sometimes it is worth it for me to get rid of it, even if 2 years from now I maybe need to replace it for whatever reason. I don't have any place to keep it for 2 years either, if I'm not going to use it. So.
I can relate to that. Well, we were just talking about, should we get one of those thunder shirts for our dogs with the fireworks season coming up? And I had one, several years ago for the old dog that I got rid of. And every once in a while I catch myself, whether it's a household item or a piece of clothing that I was just too ambitious and too eager to get rid of, wishing I had it again.
Yeah. We never found those thunder things to work for Molly. The only thing that's worked is she's 15 now and she's deaf.
I hate to laugh.
Fireworks anymore. She's a joy to be around on 4th of July.
It's so funny. I'm glad to hear she's still with you, though.
She is still with us. She's still with us. Yeah, I think Keith and I will be long gone, and Molly and my mother-in-law will still be living.
Oh, my word, that's funny.
Anyway, so we're going to wrap this up, but I always ask my guests a few questions. I have one that's always the same, but the other two are always different. So since we worked for Scholastic Book Fairs, it seemed appropriate for me to ask you what your favorite book is and why.
Yes, I had to think about this one. I would say that my favorite is Jane Eyre. And I mean, wonderful, wonderful novel. I was actually traveling in Northern England as I was reading it, so that was really cool. But I read it at a time in my life where it was just a very transitional time in my life. I was traveling alone to Northern Ireland on a photography assignment, and it was a little uneasy. I was in bed and breakfast and just kind of in hostels, and I was I didn't feel immersed in the culture because I was young, I was nervous, I was there for volunteer type business. And Jane Eyre became my best friend at that point. I would look forward to going back to the hostel or the bed and breakfast every night to read that. So I think it's my favorite just because of the time of life I was in, and really became quite wonderful company for me.
Awesome. I've not read that book. I'll have to put that. I only, and I don't know about you, but anymore, if I can't find it on audiobook and listen to it in my car, it doesn't seem to happen in my crazy busy life. You'd think I'd be slowing down at this time at this age, but not happened. So what is something that most people don't know about you?
This used to be the case, but I just recently put it out on Facebook. I was a contestant on Wheel of Fortune. That used to be my kind of standard go-to answer, but a lot of people know that now. But I have a bachelor's in architectural history and theory. To hear you say that you're a huge Frank Lloyd Wright fan, I mean, that speaks to my soul. But what happened was, as an undergrad, I used to work in the art and architecture library at Pitt. And then I went on to work in the architecture library at Georgia Tech. And then while my mom was like, I can't understand why you're not using your architecture degree, what happened was that it really helped me fall in love with library science, which ultimately led me from the Carnegie Library of Pittsburgh here to a library automation company in Rosemont. And the rest is history. I mean, that's where my husband worked. That's where we met. And then it really kind of was a natural fit then to work for Scholastic. Books and reading and literacy have always been part of my life, and didn't really realize it until I stop and think about it.
Yeah, I had it on my little notes in case you forgot about it, but I didn't think you would, that you are on Wheel of Fortune. Yeah. And I kind of forgot about it until you put that little clip out. And so I watched it. What a fun thing to have in your archives.
Yes. Yes.
And then what is your favorite piece of life advice?
I would say, I don't know who said it. I don't know where the quote comes from, but I find it to be very true that you can't pour from an empty cup. It can be said many different ways. How are you going to love yourself if you can't love anyone else, sort of thing. But like the reason I do my midwinter birthday refresh is to refresh so that I can then pour in to my family. When I'm feeling, or when anyone is feeling down or spread so thin, you really need to take care of yourself so that you can take care of the ones who are important, whether it's aging parents, children who are going through, whatever crisis there might be at any given time. But until you're feeling healthy enough to pour into other people, and it takes practice. It's something I practice every day.
That is an awesome piece of advice. I wish I was better at doing that myself. I think we all need to have like a sticker on our, whatever we look at first thing in the morning, don't forget to take care of yourself. Even if it's a nap in the afternoon, if you need it, take it.
Absolutely.
So Leslie, where can people find you? After they hear from you, they're going to want to follow you and see where you're off to, what your next adventure is.
Oh, yes. Well, I'm currently only on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram, I can be found at Mama Demps, MAMADEMPS, Mama Demps. That's kind of what my kids' friends know me as. I'm connected to kids' friends on Instagram, whether they like it or not, because I like to see what my kids are up to too. And then just Leslie Dempsey on Facebook. So my cover photo on Facebook is the "You Are Beautiful," those stickers, that you see all over Chicagoland. So that's just Facebook and Instagram. So
very, very good. Well, I want to thank you so much, Leslie, for being on the podcast. It was so much fun catching up with you. And for my listeners, thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and I will see you next week.
Thank you so much for having me, Lynn.
You're very welcome.